Welcome back to Cover Your Assets, financial tactics for the 21st century. CoverYourAssets21.com. And a gift for you from the team, authored by Todd Rooker, is the Financial Crisis Bible. No matter where you are, even if you are in great shape right now and you want to avoid ever having trouble, definitely go to CoverYourAssets21.com and download your free copy of Todd's book. So we're here with Derek Walgrave, Todd Rooker, and of course, Craig Nestor. And we're in the middle of a story about foreclosure defense. And Craig, that's what you do. And you set the story of Eddie, right? Eddie. The vet who came back, amazingly dangerous work that he did in the Middle East for us, came back, couldn't get a job, got jerked around by his lender, about to lose his house, and in you came.
Well, Eddie comes and he says over and over again to me, and this is the haunting part, as he's looking down at his feet and his wife's crying, they've got 3 kids. I did everything they asked me to do. I did everything they've asked me to do. So he's following his instructions. The government says, go to your lender. The lender says, call us. He does exactly what he's told to do. And because he does that, they hold the sheriff's sale. That event occurs. So he calls up, hey, where's my loan mod? Where's my loan mod? You said send the paperwork. I qualify. I'm a vet. Well, because he was now late, they now threw him out of the process, scheduled the sheriff's sale, had that event. He's in a 6-month redemptive period, so we're 3 months past the sheriff's sale when he comes to me. When Eddie qualified for that loan, they used his reservist income, which he makes once a year for 2 weeks, $1,500. They used that as monthly income on the application. It wasn't monthly income, it was annual income. They also used his wife's unemployment inside of those figures. And then they raised those numbers a couple more grand so he qualified. So people can say, yeah, well, they signed the documents. Those weren't real documents. Those were fraud. And we use that leverage to say, whoa, 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 let's take a look at this. And we use Jesse Keyboard from Daniels and Wymore, and we got to stay in the redemptive period. We were able to stop the foreclosure process long enough to have a common sense conversation. And now when we buy that time, now we continue to strategize.
That's awesome. Now, is he going to be able to stay in the house? How did it end?
It's not over.
Okay.
So the first thing is we push the pause button. So Mama Bear can relax. We're going to have our day to speak to the lender about this. We now have equal footing in the conversation. So yes, he didn't make his payments, but he was instructed not to make his payments, and he's not the only one that's out of compliance here. Look, we can all say, did they sign the paperwork? Yes, they did, but we also know the lending industry came at us very aggressively. They changed telemarketing laws for how aggressive the lending industry pursued the clientele. So we were able to stop this process. Again, it's just one guy, one family, stop the process, help this family out, and we used the forensic audit and one of our partners, Jesse from Daniels and Wymore.
So how does the Todd Rooker component come in a situation like this, Todd, or in the general realm of what the Cover Your Assets team does?
Well, now we bought ourselves enough time that we can, as Craig said, actually have a conversation about it. We're still not finished. And the thing that I'll say about this is that, in this instance, Craig was the rider on the white horse and came in the steed and made everything okay. But it's only for a period of time. It's a respite because it's not over yet. And that isn't to say that they'll not prevail. But there's still more to come. And a lot of times I think people literally do just want to push a button or pay somebody a little bit of money and have it all go away. It's not like that. And, I'll give you an example. We had a client that we were trying to get a loan modification for. We brought in the attorneys. We did everything that we could. And the lender just kept right on going directly towards the inevitable sheriff's auction that, of course, triggers the 6-month redemption period whereby they'll be pushed out of the house. So prior to that, one day prior to that, we had everything keyed up. We did not necessarily want to go into the direction of bankruptcy, but by doing the bankruptcy, we were able to get rid of a second mortgage and all of the other unsecured debt that they had on credit cards. We pushed that button, stopped the sheriff's auction by doing so, but then we're able to get a modification afterwards. But we had to go through, forgive me, living heck to get this done. And for the individual consumer, they had no idea that it was going to be this strenuous to go through this process. But in the end, as far as I'm concerned, that's just par for the course. And the fact that you've got to go through, frankly, living heck to get this done, that's a part of the deal. So don't think that this is going to be simple and straightforward. But at the end, if you came to me and said, can it be done? I'd say, yes, it can be done. But they have no notion of what it's really going to take to do that.
You said something really important when you were describing this situation. You talked about the different people that you brought in, the bankruptcy attorneys and things like that. And Todd, you're sort of a hub really for this group because you have been in the financial planning industry for 27 years, but you are not what most people would consider to be a financial planner or advisor. You don't do securities anymore.
Yep.
Talk a little bit more about what you do.
True enough. It is a perfect example that I gave there. I think in that when a person is trying to make decisions, part of the challenge, and when you hear unbiased advice, there's nothing against anybody who makes a living off of commissions, but they are obviously motivated, even maybe more so than they want to admit, because this is how I put food on my table when I get commissions for that. And there's nothing wrong with that, and I don't begrudge anybody for that. But when somebody comes to me, the product that I offer is information and guidance. It is not, I'm a mortgage. It is not the sale of real estate. It is not the sale of an investment or an insurance product or anything like that. It's just, look, this is the way it is, like it or not, and this is the bottom buck and the way it works. So when a person comes to me who maybe not even hasn't missed a payment yet, but they're looking at exhausting their resources because at the moment that they come to see me, they're taking savings and using it to subsidize making payments. And we need to consider, should we stay in this house? So in the case of the client that Craig was talking about a moment ago, well, now we've got to step back and we've got to take a look and see if a modification, because more than likely the bank is going to come back with a modification. Craig and his team are phenomenal at forcing the bank to come back with a modification. However, as I always like to say, whether you're 50 feet underwater or 100 feet underwater, you're drowning in either case. And before you accept that modification, you better know what you're up against. In a situation like that where you've got $10 an hour, look, whatever they come back with is not sustainable. That's the end of the story. And when you look at the question of to stay or to go in a home, you have to know enough about your personal finances to make that decision. And I'm going to tell you right now, 98% of the people in the country don't, and especially people who are in a financial crisis who are in chaos. And so when they consider whether they should stay or go, they're just hanging onto the house with their fingernails. And I'm saying, look, if I do a comprehensive budget, I can remove every discretionary expense you have, including Christmas, birthdays, anniversaries, and not one trip to McDonald's with the kids for a Happy Meal, and you still don't have enough money to make these payments. So we're going to buy you some time using Craig and Jesse Keyboard, the attorney, and their team to be able to go out and find more income. Because if you don't, this isn't going to work.
Now, the other side of living heck, Todd, might be that decision, that horrible decision that maybe staying in the house isn't worth fighting for. Originally, you said people always, that's the first thing they say, they'll do anything to keep it. Talk about some of the times where people come to the realization that, you know what, maybe I don't want to, and maybe there's a different way.
Absolutely. And it's always the objective decision-making that must prevail and almost never exists. More often than not, as I said, people will do anything anything to save their home, and they'll say as much. They'll say, we'll do anything to keep our home because of the kids often. And so when I do a comprehensive budget with them, something that they've never done before, and they all perceive you can put together in 15 minutes, yet I've been doing it for 20 years, and it takes me 2 solid hours, and we got to prepare long before to do it.
Then 14 pages, isn't it, the questionnaire?
When we go through it and we look at this and I say, okay, so you want to keep your house, you will do anything. Oh, yeah, do anything to keep the home. And then I show them that means that your kids can't have a birthday party. It means that your daughter can't be in dance and your son can't be in hockey. And now they say, well, I'm not willing to give up those things under any circumstances. And then I look at them and I say, really? So do you really want to keep this house? If we could walk away and we go from a house payment that's $2,500 a month to a rent payment that's $1,500 per month, are you sure you want to stay in the home? If the answer at that point, now looking at it objectively, is no, then we have to short sale that property. And we have to be successful, because the impact of a short sale as compared with a foreclosure where they sit in the house is that in the long-term look that we look into the future, it'll take them 2 to 3 years to get mortgage financing after a short sale, 5 to 7 years after a foreclosure. So if we can save this young family that so that they can be homeowners, something that at that moment they'll tell you they don't care if they are ever a homeowner again. They'll almost always tell you that. They don't know what they're talking about. They're so stressed they can't think straight.
Sure.
The day after it's over, the first thing they want to know is how long will it take to recover their credit, which really means how long until I can buy a house again. So we send them to Derek and we send them to Jason and Derek Walgrave as a team, because they've got a 90% success rate at getting short sales done when the industry standard is about 20% of that. So when we send them to people, we send them to the best. And that's why we go to Jason and Derek.
And that may be the best situation sometimes, Todd. And you've seen a lot of stories, and we'll get more into the short sale aspect of this in our next segment here at Cover Your Assets. But you've seen a lot of people come back from some pretty hardcore stuff, and at varying levels of debt. I mean, some people that were millions because they were kind of high rollers, and they've come back, and all different levels. I mean, that has to be pretty gratifying.
Massive amounts of debt, and it's funny. I'll have somebody sitting in my office who's got $150,000 mortgage or a $250,000 mortgage, and they're sitting there asking me, will I ever be able to come back from this? And I say, well, I'll tell you what. About a week ago, I had a guy in my office who had $100 million in deficiency debt. I don't mean $100 million in loans. I mean after you sold all the real estate and paid what the real estate brought at sale, there was still $100 million left owing. And I can bring that person back, their credit back within 2 to 3 years and get them back on track financially. Trust me, if I can do it with that person, I can do it with you.
Feel a little bit better sometimes hearing that about the old credit card situation, don't you?
Nothing is insurmountable. Nothing is insurmountable.
I guess not. So coming up here on Cover Your Assets, we're going a layer deeper. We're talking about actual people that the Cover Your Assets team has worked with, and they've come back from amazing, amazing places. 855-835-8500 would be the number that you would reach us at during the week to get started on your own journey. Maybe you haven't even fallen into a bad spot yet, but you want to avoid it in the future. 855-835-8500, and go to, by all means, coveryourassets21.com. Great resource. You can meet the team there. You can download your free copy of the Financial Crisis Bible, and you can also find the flyer for the upcoming event December 1st in Washington County, Housing Solutions. Very cool combination of for and nonprofits working together, and Mr. Craig Nestor is going to be a featured speaker at that event. Next up, we're going to talk about the short sale aspect of what we do here on Cover Your Assets.
I've got my spine, I've got